It is no secret on this channel that if you ask me, hey, if you had to pick one brand of radio to use from now until the end of time, that I would pretty much always blurt right out and say, go with a Motorola. From all their stuff that I have used of theirs and continue to use, APX 7000s, APX 6000s, there's an MTS 2000, an HT 1000, a 1500, 2500, there's a 7550 there, more MTS 2000s, more 7550s, 2500s with the full keypad, XTS 5000s, and yes, even the Sabres. And we actually have a really cool video, especially if you're a Motorola Sabre series fan, coming up that's going to be awesome. But that's not what we're going to be talking about. I had multiple people hit me up and say, hey, have you seen this? This is not an APX series radio, even though it looks just like it. This is actually the Baofeng UV-32. In this video, we're going to start talking about some of its pluses, some of its minuses, and just my general impression as a Motorola professional end user, and definitely fan, and how it rates compared to this thing. So first off, what do we notice? Number one, it looks just like it. But in the previous videos I've done, we talked about the importance of, if you're going to be incorporating quality comms gear into your preparedness plans, it has to be rugged. And with that ruggability usually comes some sort of IP rating. This has holes all over it. It's got the USB-C charger on the front with no sort of plug at all. So that's obviously a place where intrusion, water and dust intrusion can easily get in there. It also has the standard, old school Kenwood style connector on the side. This rubber, it seems like it gets a pretty good seal, but the whole thing about this is it carries no IP rating. So, user beware right off the bat. And while we're on it, just kind of walking around the thing, one thing I think that is kind of funny, but I immediately noticed, is that the radio is pretty much built backwards. So if I pop this out here, you'll notice on the Baofeng, the push to talk button is what I would consider on the left side of the radio. On Motorola, the 6000 and the 7000, the push to talk button is on the right side. So they're kind of opposite each other. So that was very interesting. Obviously, like I said, the Baofeng is using the Motorola style connector for its accessory port, lapel mics, whatever you're going to put on there. And Motorola, of course, has their proprietary style connectors. The big thing with the Motorola stuff is this is very easy to secure and make it that it is waterproof, which is why these have such a high, or one of the reasons why they have such a high IP rating. Beyond that, another big thing is, I will say, I've always said I'm a fan of dropping my radio into a cradle to charge it. This does come with a charging cradle. You can plug it and charge it through its USB-C. It also does have the contacts on the front of the radio, again, just like the actual Motorola's, and you can put it in its cradle and let it charge that way. So if you had it set up on a desk, that's all well and good. Another thing is it's missing this top button. So the actual Apexes have this button here on the top, where the Baofengs have the bottom two, but there's no third accessory button, or what would probably be the first accessory button. As far as the tops go and how they compare and how they're laid out, the Baofeng has a channel selector that you can spin indefinitely. The Motorola's, kind of traditionally, as they are true to, they have just a 16 channel. You can go that way with it, you can go back, you can go that way with it. Another thing, with the 7000s, with the 6000s, they also have what's usually programmed to be a zone selector. So A, B, and C, A, B, and C. The Baofengs do not. It's the whole top here. It doesn't have the display screen. It doesn't have the emergency button. It doesn't have the zone selector, which is interesting because they do have this radio able to be programmed and organized by zones, or banks as they call it. And I'm going to go through the software with this in a minute, but it's a little bit disappointing that they couldn't at least put that in there, because I do like the fact that it can be organized by zones. Another thing beyond that is, I'm a big advocate for just the fit and feel of the radio. This feels as far as the size goes and its dimensions, you know, obviously just like the Motorola, there's the 7000 compared to the Baofeng. I mean, they're pretty spot on. One thing that I thought was really interesting, though, which was actually surprised didn't work, is I'm sure you're all familiar if you follow Motorola and the APX series. These are the belt clips that they come with, and this is basically the case for your radio. So you take your radio, this will be on your belt. You can drop that in just like that. They hold them secure. It still gives you access to any of the buttons that you would need to get to. Same thing on the 6000. Now these cases are a little bit specific for the radio just because of the sizes. If you put the 7000 into the 6000's case, you can still get to the push to talk button and whatnot, but it's not going to line up perfectly. I thought it was really interesting. The belt case that the Baofeng UV-32 comes with is absolutely hideous. It is a vinyl, nylon, just horrendous excuse for some sort of belt attachment. So I thought, wow, will it fit this? So I tried putting this in. This is for the 6000, and as close as they are in size, you cannot get the Baofeng to fit into the case. Even if you turn it backwards, which I thought maybe because they're just built, opposite each other, it would go in. It does not. The 7000's case is a little bit bigger, or sorry, the radio is a little bit bigger, and that's still, you cannot get the Baofeng to go into its belt case. So that was pretty interesting. I don't know if somebody's probably going to, you could probably make some money if you started 3D printing one that would fit the UV-32. So just a little fun fact there. I thought it was kind of noteworthy.
Hey, where did you find this?
It walks under my seat.
Are they heavy?
Yeah.
Then they're expensive. Put them back.
Sticking with the fit and feel on these things, again, I like that good weight to size ratio. So just for comparison's sakes, I'm going to put these on the scale. So first we're going to have the APX 6000. That's going to weigh in at 507 grams. Then the 7000, that's going to weigh in at 576 grams. And then the UV-32, that's weighing in at 387 grams. So it definitely doesn't have that overly solid construction feel. However, I will also say that at the same time, it doesn't feel cheap either. And one of my biggest pluses for advocating for this is, number one, because of the price range at like pretty much $100, the fact that if you're going to be putting this in any sort of, commercial oriented, public safety oriented style, like cases or fitment, it's going to fit properly. Unlike a lot of the ham radios, especially the Chinese ham radios that are just ultra small, pretty much for no reason as far as I'm concerned. Also, I did put the radio on an SWR meter. So just to give you the results of those, on UHF, I was getting a 2.71 to 1 SWR reading. We had 6.41 watts on high power, 4.78 watts on medium power, and 2.44 watts on low power. When I brought it over to the VHF side, you were getting 4.74 watts on high, and the SWR on the VHF side was 2.78 to 1. And then as far as the medium power, that was coming in at 1.47 watts, and on low power, it was at 1.02 watts. So getting into this radio as far as using it and then actually interfacing with it, first off, when you come to the screen, it's always in this split mode where you're going to have, a dual watch capability. If you want it, you're going to have, an A frequency and a B frequency, which we're all pretty much familiar with if you're used to using any sort of like Baofeng radio. OK button here on the side brings you into the menu. And like I said before, one of the things I really liked about this radio is the fact that it does have the capability to program it in banks. And if you're, again, used to a Motorola radio, that's how they have those divided up and programmed. So I'm a fan of that. And this is all the banks that I have in my radio. It's really easy to navigate through. Like here's one with all the FRS, all the GMRS, and all the MERS frequencies. So you click on that, you go into it, and then there's that, bottom B band with all of those frequencies that I have programmed in there. So definitely a fan of that. You can do scan with it. It does have a Bluetooth capability. However, I have not found any accessories that are for the UV32 that will work with this Bluetooth. But if you did turn the Bluetooth on, it'll show you there's a little Bluetooth indicator that comes up right there to let you know that your Bluetooth is on. Just going back into that. So turn that off. Some other stuff as far as the radio settings go. So number one, as far as your steps, you can obviously, it's very easy to choose from which steps you want the frequencies basically to scroll through on. So that's pretty nice. Obviously setting your squelch. Your power save mode is just basically to shut the screen off after a certain point so you're not wasting battery displaying the screen when you're not looking at it. It does have voice activation. You can set that level. You can do the delay. Of course, it can do the voice. It has several different voices. You can pick the language you want it in. Those are annoying. I don't do any of that. As far as the Roger beeps go, you can have the typical traditional Baofeng Roger beep that we're all used to. You can also make it sound like you have MDC 1200 in there, which is also interesting because that was a proprietary Motorola system for radio identification. So I thought it was kind of weird that they wanted to put a sound alike. It doesn't actually transmit any data. It just does the sound. So getting back into here to finish coming through here. The beep, if you want your buttons to beep as you're going through them, obviously have that turned off. You can set how long you want the backlight to stay on for, or if you want it always on. That will kill your battery quicker. The power display, basically when you turn the radio on, it'll tell you either you can put a picture in there or show you the voltage that the radio has. It comes default with the voltage set, which is why I haven't changed that. Dual watch. This is kind of nice. So right now I have dual watch on. That's if you want to listen to two VFOs basically at the same time. Usually I have dual watch off because sometimes it can just be too much and you could key up and not be on your primary VFO and end up talking on a frequency that you didn't want to. And basically when you turn that off, both VFOs will still display, but as you can see on this top one, now it's got a little speaker with an X through it. So it basically just mutes the one of the VFOs. And then you can just switch back and forth through them by hitting the home button. And whatever one you want to have activated, it makes that one take up more real estate on the screen. So right here you can see Zone A is activated and Zone B has the little microphone with the X through it. So that's really easy just to scroll back and forth with that home button. As far as going back into the radio settings, the color screen on these is nice. They did do a nice job with it. The power display, again, we kind of went through that. That's what on your startup screen. There's a dual watch, auto lock if you want to have your radio lock when it goes through. Alarm mode, on-site send sound, send code. I have no idea what that does. I'm assuming it's going to transmit. Again, if you wanted it to go into an alarm mode, I don't know how you would do that, but it would transmit a distress signal to other radios because then it has all these different alarm tones that you can pick as well. It does DTMF, has a push-to-talk ID. Again, before transmission, in the transmission, both. I don't understand really how it's doing it because it doesn't have push-to-talk. If anybody out there knows how to do that or what that's doing, please let me know. See, there's your alert and all the different basically frequency ranges that it will alert to or on, but I don't know what that's doing or how that's going to. You can turn to have your squelch tail on or off, and then your side press, your SK1 on this button, on what you want that to do. Even in the software, you have these 1-2 buttons. I have not seen anything, again, even in the software, and I'll show you, on how to program the number 2 button. It's just the number 1 button. I don't know if that's just a software issue, something that was overlooked. Not 100% sure on that one. But getting back through here just to make sure we go through everything. And then you can do a factory reset on your radio just by going to that menu item. So going down, it does have GPS. You have to select your time zone, or you should select your time zone if you're using it. And then when you go to GPS mode, you can see you can select it to GPS BDS or GPS and BDS. If you're not familiar, so BDS, that is the Chinese Global Positioning System, which stands for it's the Beidou Navigation Satellite System. One thing I know about this from just knowing stuff about GPS is that it's really only meant to kind of to be used within China and through the China National Space Administration. It's one of those things that they don't, as you can imagine, China doesn't play too well with others. So I don't know how much benefit. It's more of a regional system than a global system, but it won't hurt to have both things programmed in there. What's nice about it is to get into the GPS and to activate it, they've made it really easy. If you hit the P2 button, it takes you to this screen here. And this is for if you're sharing your GPS and there's another UV32 user and they key up, it will actually kind of give you a direction and a distance of where their radio is if they're transmitting and receiving their GPS information as well. So that's nice. That's really easy. The GPS receivers do work. If you hit OK from this screen here, it'll come up with obviously your GPS position. But the other shortcut to get just to that screen is to, rather than hit P2, just hit P1 and it takes you right to your GPS position location. So getting back in here, as far as navigating through your channel mode versus your VFO mode, all you have to do is press and hold the OK button. And there you go. So we're in the VFO mode now. So some interesting things on here. So number one, yes, this radio can receive the airband. You cannot transmit on it. If you transmit, you'll just get a beep and there's no red light that comes on. But it does have that receive range in there, which is pretty cool. You saw as far as like your 220 band goes, there that is. Yes, you can transmit on that. It will do that, and you can receive all through there. Just like your VHF modes, program all those in there. It will transmit on it. And of course your ham modes as well. So pretty cool as far as that goes. It has a really broad receive range, which is nice. One thing that's interesting though with this, and just to show you, I think it's very interesting. So this is an analog only radio, but when you go into the program channel menu, obviously it's easy to do with a receive frequency mode, a transmit power, bandwidth what you want, all your CT, CSS, tone programming. Has the option for DCS in there as well, which is usually digital. And here's the one that really got my attention is it says encryption. And I don't know how you're encrypting analog radio, but if we go back into there and press that, you'll see that it will come up with on or off. So just for demonstration purposes here, I'm going to go to one of the rant frequencies and show you what exactly this is doing. Okay, so here we are. So we're in our rant zone here. Obviously, tack one on here, tack one on here. Another thing I want to point out is the fact of on your APX series radios, they actually have a mic on what would be considered the front of the radio as well as the back. On the Baofeng UV32s, the only mic that is on this radio is right here. And if you try talking into the front of it, it sounds awful. So just keep that in mind. But as far as the subscription stuff goes, here's what we're going to do. Again, they're both on tack one. This is a UHF analog frequency. Testing 1, 2, 3. And then come back and receive it. Testing 1, 2, 3. You can hear that the speaker quality is actually really nice on here. It has a decent mic on it. But if we go back to the program channel mode, we go down and we turn on encryption. If I then go to transmit on this, still on tack one, but now we have encryption on. Testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So what's happening is if you can see this, if you look right here on the signal receive meter on the 7550, if I key up, it's registering that there is a transmission coming through. It's all the way cranked up. But it's acting as if the channel is encrypted. So I don't know what key it's using or how that is over an analog channel not making this come through. If you have any information on that, please share that in the comments. I'm big on encryption. Obviously, both of these radios have encryption capabilities and I use them. So I'm really curious to know what exactly this UV32 is doing or attempting to do when that's happening. So beyond that, going through this other menu here, I'll go back down to where encryption was. Just beyond the encryption, it says signaling. And then it has all these different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 20 different signaling menus. And again, I don't know what that is. This may be something that is proprietary kind of to a UV32, to a UV32, that if you put encryption on and you have those signaling set to the same thing, are they just PL tones? I have no idea. The thing I'm going to go back and just show you though is that if encryption is on and we stay on TAC 1 like we were, if I key up on this radio, test, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, test, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, you can see nothing is coming through here. If I turn this all the way up, test, 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 1, 2, 1, 2. So it is not just a PL tone because it shouldn't be. Somewhere along the line, we should at least be seeing it register on here. So I'm very curious to know if you have any information on what exactly is happening there when that's going on. So you can add channels into your scan. You can do the busy lockout stuff. It's pretty easy. If you want to have stuff into your memory banks or delete channels, that's all pretty standard as far as that goes. So now what we're going to do is, this pretty much covers the radio itself. I'm going to jump in and show you what the software looks like and kind of some of the basic programming with this. Okay, so as we're going to jump into this, number one, as far as the program that we're using, it is the UV32 programmer. I tried doing the Bluetooth app that apparently exists, and I could not find that anywhere else that even knew to say, hey, this is the app you should be using. So UV32 programmer is what I use to program the UV32. It worked well. However, I own several Baofeng programming cables. None of them worked. The thing that I found that worked was the RTS Systems cable. This right here, this USB K4Y cable, as soon as I plugged it in, it worked. It comes with the drivers and everything else that you need. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to get a UV32, get that cable from RTS Systems as well. Now, getting into the programming software itself. This is the screen that kind of pops up when you see it. And what I kind of want to just start into is right here where you can see what they call the bank names is actually the different zones that you can program into your radio. And again, if you are an avid Motorola user, you are used to your radios being programmed out zone by zone. How I like to do mine, number one, obviously, is for rant stuff. And then right behind that, as you can see, there's all your FRS, GMRS, and MERS channels. Being on the water, it's always nice to have a marine capability as well. And then beyond that, I kind of do things geographically. Here's Maryland repeaters. I'll put in Delaware repeaters, weather channels, a bank for each, just to keep it very, very organized. Now, the thing with this too is it's almost like for lack of better terms, almost like a fake zone system, because as you can see, you're just doing it, they're separated by channel numbers. So you have 100 channels per zone, and you can't shorten that or make it longer. So this just got to pay attention to where you're programming which frequencies, and that will kind of auto assign them in the radio under those different zones or banks, as Baofeng is calling them. So now we're going to go through a really amazing thing that this program has is this frequency list program. It is pretty incredible how easy it is to start here if you just want to get your radio programmed up as quickly as possible. Based on which bank you want to have those frequencies in is how you would assign the start channel, and then we'll then program them into those banks. And as you can see, so I wanted FRS, GMRS, and MERS all in one bank. So you just click on it. It has all of the frequencies already in there. All you need to do is start it at the right channel. What's nice is because this is a dual band radio, you can have MERS and GMRS and FRS all in the same bank. So here it is. We know that one bank changed right at channel 101. So I apply it. And then once I do that, now it says, look, the next channel will start at 158 because it programmed 58 frequencies into that bank. So that's all of that covered right there. The next thing, like I said, being on the water, I wanted to have a marine bank just with all of the, basically make it into a VHF marine radio. I wanted it in a new bank that started at channel 300. So now it has 53 or 52 marine channels programmed into it. So from 301 to 302 or from 352 is basically a marine radio. And here's all those frequencies automatically added in. This makes this so easy. This is one of the easiest programming systems I have used once I learned how to do that. And if you're used to using Moto Turbo software or the APX programming software, any of that stuff, or the CPS, compared to trying to program a Motorola, this was so easy. So based on that, again, this would be a positive recommendation based on these features of the UV32. Another thing you do, go back into this file menu, go to your external data. It's got an RF finder or repeater book. And here you can just seek out based geographically for the amateur bands. And then at the bottom there, you can see, or you can just check the box for GMRS radio. So any GMRS repeaters in a geographical area, any of the ham repeaters in a geographical area. And then beyond that, you can specifically target which ones you want to look for, whether you're just looking for 2 meter, 70 centimeter, 220, anything you want to kind of zero in on what you want to do. Or you can either do it on the digital modes of who has Fusion, D-Star, DMR, P25, anything like that you want to kind of narrow your search in. You can also zero in just based on the state, and or you can select the entire state and all of their frequencies, or just the county of that state, all the frequencies that are listed for that county. So again, very easy to use. I thought this was a very user-friendly side of this radio, and I'm hoping that the longer these things are out there, the more software that will come about for them. And you could make this a really robust, easily programmable radio to kind of have, at least, if not your primary, at least as a backup. Now, as far as getting into the actual menu of the radio to get in there and program the software for it, what you want to do to access that is just go to your settings button, go down, click on the radio menu settings, and here you can kind of see what you can program and alter within the radio itself. There's that alarm, the beep if you want the buttons to beep. You can set the backlight, again, that power on menu, your display mode for your AVFO, your BVFO, and if you look there, it just says at the bottom, in the middle there, it says key 2. That's the only key that you can really alter and change and customize for what you want it for. Your DTMF tones, again, the fact that it has its own menu, very easily to get in there and change and kind of make user-friendly based on your preferences. So there's my thoughts on the UV32. Let me know if you have any other thoughts about this, things that I've missed. If you have one of these and you're using it, let me know. Personally, is this going to be my primary go-to radio? Absolutely not. Again, it doesn't hold that IP rating. It doesn't have a digital capability. They do make one that does do digital. This one does not. This is just a UV. I think the one that does is called like the UM or the UD, something like that. That apparently does have, does do DMR, which is really, really cool. And there I'd be really interested in exploring the encryption and whatnot. But again, we kind of talked in the past about the things that RANT mandates for an operational radio. And one of those is holding an IP rating, and this does not do that. But I'm not going to write this radio off. The size and feel of it, I'm definitely a fan of. The fact that it organizes the channels through zones. I'm a huge fan of that. This would certainly be something that, especially in a training environment, if we had an adjunct instructor or just needed an extra student radio, I would very confidently hand this radio off, let them use it, not be terribly distraught if something happened to it and it broke. So is it a hard pass? Absolutely not. This is definitely something, if you're just looking for something new and different to play around with and you're a fan of Motorola and kind of want something in that form factor, then the UV32 is definitely something you should consider. Guys, this is not a paid promotion. Baofeng did not send me this radio to review. This was just all on me because I'm a Motorola fan, and when I saw this, I had to purchase it and mess with it and see what I thought. So again, anything you want to say about this, put in the comments. I'll see you on the next one. And with that, be safe.